What's up YouTube? It's Jay Hart here, here to do a review on the Sportiva TXS GTX hiking boots. So first off, the price of this boot is about 179 bucks at REI. It's rated a 4.25 at rei.com. And just so you understand, I bought this boot the day before I went on a elk hunt trip in a Fogneck Island in Kodiak, Alaska. And if you know anything about a fogneck, it's a rainforest, rains over 100 inches a year. Definitely expecting rain and treacherous weather is what you need to do. So not the best plan, but the other hiking boots I was going to use, my Solomon's, had a pinpoint hole in them, and I was worried about getting my feet wet. So ended up buying these the night before. Like I said, they're rated a 4.25. I tried them on at REI, and normally I wear a 10.5, and with these I needed to upgrade to an 11. So my toes were touching the front on the 10.5, so just a little bit too small on the 10.5, so I had to upgrade to the 11 to get the correct fit on these. So the fit is fantastic. It is snug to my foot. I'm relatively flat-footed, have somewhat of a wide foot, but relatively, fits great. It's nice and comfortable. Fits like a nice running shoe or a low top hiking boot, and is definitely light, but fits well. In terms of the support of this boot is incredible. Like I said, I was using this on a Fogneck Island. I was there for 5 days hiking, 6 to 10 miles a day, up mountains and through creeks, and hiking through bear country consistently. And throughout the entire trip, had absolutely no complaints about this boot. Boot performed incredibly well. The traction, even though we were hiking through creeks, anytime we would get the boot wet, end up having to hike, down a mountain. Normally you're worried about slipping, or stepping on a rock and slipping. Didn't have to worry about that with this boot at all. One of the things I was worried about was getting blisters on my feet, and like I said, it was pretty stupid for me to go to REI the day before I fly out to a remote island in Alaska to do a hunt with some of the world's largest bears. Worried about getting blisters on my feet, especially hiking up mountains, but there was absolutely no break-in with this boot. I put it on during the trip. I wore it one day before the trip happened. Didn't get any blisters, my feet weren't sore, was comfortable the entire time that I was wearing the boot. Some of the people mentioned on rei.com that they felt that this boot wasn't waterproof. Taking this boot to Kodiak, I can tell you it is. This is definitely a waterproof boot. It rained practically every single day, sat through storms, went through creek crossings. My feet never got wet when the boot was performing the way it needed to perform. The boot did get wet the last day that we were there, but it was because boot crept in from my pants down into my socks, which crept into the boot. So it had nothing to do with the performance of the boot. The boot's definitely waterproof. It just had to do with the way that we were hiking through some country and the way that the water actually got into the boot. It was not from the boot's performance though. The boot is definitely waterproof. The one downside to this boot is it has thin laces, which kind of scare you a little bit, but they definitely are pretty strong. The only issue I had with these boots were the lace loops. The lace loop on mine actually broke. The funny thing is, it lasted the entire week in Kodiak. I got back to Anchorage, didn't have any issues at all. I went on a rabbit hunt 2 weeks later and was literally just walking around on gravel roads. Nothing crazy, but the lace loop broke. Ended up hiking around the next day with a broken lace loop. Ended up taking it back to REI, and they asked me how I broke it. The guy actually told me that these boots are returned pretty often because of the lace loop breaking. So that is the one downside to this boot. The lace loop is not built out of the best material. This is the lace loop I'm talking about. So other than the lace loop, had absolutely no concerns about this boot. If if you listen to any of my other YouTube reviews on hiking boots, pretty big about the Salomon GTX series. Didn't think I would ever go away from those boots, but I wanted to give something else a try going to a fog neck since I have some wear and tear in some of my boots. I figured I'd give something else a try, and I can't complain about these at all. Definitely a boot I'd recommend for other people. If you are doing sheep hunting or something like that, might not go with this boot just because of the lace loops. Last thing you want to do is be 15 miles back all the way up a scree field in a mountain and have some of the scree fall and crack the lace loop on your boot and have to walk 12 to 15 miles back with a broken lace loop. Just not something you want to do. So if you're doing anything else, normal hiking, in other terrain where you're not going to have scree fields, basically throwing rocks down at your shoes, I think this is a perfectly great boot and definitely would recommend it to anybody.